I was gonna do it from my computer.
It's like planning. Yeah, I was like, next big thing. Yeah, our office. I was in an office survey. I was when I first started.
Observer.
I need to, I don't.
Yes, we're in.
we have to go ahead and get through it. It's, there's snooze to lose, and the city attorney said we don't need a quorum to get through this part of the meeting, so.
Ready?
Time to
Yeah.
go.
Good evening. Well,
Actually, we're a couple of minutes late.
excellent. Well, we've got a handful of items on the pre-meeting agenda. We'll dive right in, and the first one is on the specific purpose sales and use tax implementation strategy. And council had directed us to put together a schedule and a strategy for how we implement the 4 taxes that were passed as part of the specific purpose sales and use tax. And so included in your packet is a memo and then a Gantt chart that identifies these. And so I'd like to just briefly go through and summarize kind of the Gantt chart. And so on the first proposition 1 is Metro Animal Shelter. And so right now the conceptual design is taking place on that project, has been for some time. And the first thing on our list, starting immediately, is to go through the architecture selection process and retain an architect and complete the conceptual design of the facility. And then towards the end of that conceptual design, we'll advertise and do a selection process for a construction manager at risk for the to assist with the completion of the design and ultimately the construction of the facility. And then construction is anticipated to start in September of 2025 and be wrapped up by October of 2026. And so again, that's a fairly aggressive schedule, but one that allows us to meet the needs at the Metro Animal Shelter. The second one in proposition number 5 was fire station number 1 development. And again, that funding, $4.4 million, was for identifying and acquiring the land and then the architectural and site design for the building. And so again, I think fairly aggressively but optimistically, we're hoping to wrap the land identification and acquisition up by the end of the fiscal year, June of 2025. And part of that process will be, looking at different parcels, laying out conceptual designs for the facility on those parcels, and hopefully acquiring a parcel by the end of this fiscal year. And then immediately thereafter to do, architecture selection and architectural and site design for the facility that's anticipated to take place over the next probably 18 months roughly. And again, that is that the $4.4 million is planned there. Roughly round numbers, looked at the cost for the architectural design and have it at 1.4 million, and roughly have the cost for acquiring the land at $3 million. The 911 dispatch equipment, that project, it's really important there. We didn't want to rush out and go purchase this equipment and then have to store it and wait to install it until we're done with remodeling the Casper Business Center. So we've got, specifying the equipment and meeting with suppliers and trying to figure out the equipment we need, and then bidding the equipment. And then around December of 2025, we've got ordering and receiving the equipment and installing the equipment in the new building. And again, the total price for that is $5 million. The final proposition is proposition number 8, and that's the Washington Park band shell, and that's $1.5 million. The nice part about that project is we anticipate using that $1.5 million to leverage a land and water conservation grant. So we can complete another additional improvements to Washington Park that include accessibility, equipment, parking lot, other components that enhance the use of the band shell. And so we have to wait to deploy those funds until after we go through the land and water conservation grant application and receipt. And then we would begin with an engineer or an architect for the design of the facility in October of 2025, and then begin construction around May of 2026, and then complete that project within that calendar year. So the nice part, when we cost loaded the schedule based upon the encumbrance of money and then also the expenditure of money. And it's important to note that this tax money doesn't start until April 1st. So the notice goes down to the state of the additional 1 cent tax. That notice goes out, and then the tax starts on April 1st. So we will start getting, the monies will start flowing to the state and we'll be accruing those revenues starting April 1st. And so you can see the anticipated revenue accrual down below, and our revenue is exceeding our expenditures and exceeding our encumbrance. So we're ahead of the game. That helps us not have to borrow money from other resources inside the city to fund these projects. It's the idea that the revenue will come in concurrently with the schedule. And we didn't have to jumble the schedule around much. We looked at realistically what we could do to expedite each project and make the schedule fit with the components of the project, like the Land and Water Conservation Fund, and the overall anticipated schedule and the funding or the money coming in from the 6 cent specific purpose sales and use tax readily meets the proposed schedule. So with that, Mr. Mayor, I'd be glad to address any questions or concerns that you or the council may have.
It's estimated to be completed like in 13 months, correct?
That's correct.
That's what the red line is, I believe.
Yeah, the red line is roughly anticipated when we think the revenues will be completed. So as soon as the money is, as there to fund these taxes, it's not like it can stop exactly on that day, but that tax will be completed. And again, I think that's important to demonstrate to the community that, the tax begins on this date, and then when they're funded, the tax ends.
Any questions?
Yeah, I just have a comment. I agree, and I'm glad you had said that, Tom, because I think it's important that the community has trust, because I know that something that people have said that is it going to ever go away? And I think it's obviously the specific, this type of a tax. Cheyenne does it all the time, and it's been proven that it does work in this sense. And so I think this will be a good opportunity to show the community that this will end, and it's not going to go on forever. So.
That's all we've got, and we'll go on to the council goals revenue. Council goals revenue team update.
Yeah, so in accordance with the council goals, there's been a really active revenue team that includes Liz Becker, Jill Johnson, Zalima Lopez, Jolene Martinez, and Pete Myers. And they've done some amazing work looking at how to address these goals as it's related to the revenue control and revenue in the city of Casper. And so I don't trip over myself. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to Pete and let him provide a presentation on where the revenue committee's at right now and how that addresses the council's goals. So, Mr. Myers, thank you.
Thank you so much, Acting City Manager, Mr. Mayor. Yes, thank you so much for this chat. And by the way, let me know if I'm not speaking at an appropriate level of volume. This locale. First of all, just to recap, yes, this is part of the council goals that were adopted a year and a half ago by the council. There were 17 things that the council asked us to accomplish, things regarding water rates, things regarding communications goals, things regarding safety, construction, so on and so forth. But two of the goals that you guys set aside for us dealt with revenue. It's about internal revenue, things like revenues that we can generate here within our powers, and also revenues that we can achieve by pulling from out of town. And so we've been trying to implement that by pulling it into some tangible things that we can do. So the first thing we did was we pulled together what we call the revenue team, which is the 5 of us. We've got together and we tried to divide up this task in a few different ways. One of them was to basically do some research. State law allows us to do certain things to generate revenue. It allows municipalities to generate revenue. They are certainly very limited in Wyoming, the kinds of revenue that we can do. We have constraints, but there are certain things we can and can't do. And we wanted to make sure that we were fully aware of all the tools that were at our disposal. And looking for ways to say, look, of these tools, are any of them applicable to our situation? Are any of them things that we can apply, which maybe are things which we're not what we're doing currently, but maybe we could try it out and help it to solve some of our problems. Because revenue constraints are there, we have to be doing everything we can to sort of maximize what we find and put it all to work. So for the last year or so, we've been meeting and one of the primary things we're doing is trying to do this research, trying to call other communities and figure out what they are doing with these revenue tasks, what they are using, which tools they're using, which ones are working for them, which ones are not, and looking for, basically trying to document how these things work, what does work well for them, what hasn't, what's the law regarding these things, and timelines and basic constraints about what we're doing. So, certainly they're all in the memo, but federal grants has certainly always been a top priority for us. And we've got some experience with federal grants. It's not new for us, but it's been good to sort of take the time to document. This is how you get federal grants. Lord knows there's a lot of turnover at city staff. Many of us have a lot of experience with federal grants. We've gotten several, we've used different agencies and so on. But having the rules written down, having them spelled out, like, okay, this is what you should expect when you apply for a federal grant. It's not exactly the same thing as free money. It does take a lot of work. There are a lot of regulations. It's good to have a system in place for handling those federal grants. Federal earmarks are what's called congressionally directed spending. It's federal money, and you do work with Congress in order to get it. But it's not exactly a free for all. It's not free. It's not. We've had a little bit of success with our congressional delegation to help us with this, but there are lots of rules. There's lots of procedures you got to go through, and certain risks, and work well for certain kinds of applications and not others. So we've been trying to document that kind of thing. Sponsorships and naming rights. Obviously, Fort Wyoming Center was a primary example of where we put that into practice. But certainly we've looked at other opportunities. Are there other places where it might work? Just to go through the rest of the list. Industrial siting fees. We've gotten several of those from the Cedar Impact Wind Farm, several others from the Anticline, several Dutchman, and others which are in the works. But the rules regarding how to get those monies, how it works, what the reporting requirements, and what kinds of applications the Industrial Siting Council is willing to fund and which ones they're not. Having that written down is helpful. Specific sales taxes. Certainly, we've always had the 1 cent, or we've had it for the last 50 years or so. But there are actually 5 different specific sales taxes that are authorized in state law. Traditionally, use just one of them. Certainly, we tried for a specific purpose tax once. It didn't work out so well. That was back in 2018. Since then, we've gotten the citywide specific sales tax, which of course was passed by the voters 2 weeks ago, a different kind. There are also resort district sales taxes. There are economic development sales taxes, which we don't use, but other communities in Wyoming do. So we did some work to reach out to those communities and say, what works for you? Have you used it? What are the rules? What are your experiences? Like all of these things, these are tools that are available, and we might never use some of them. Some of them just might not be a good fit for Casper for whatever reason. But we wanted to make sure we had an understanding of these tools, so that we knew what was out there, what the constraints were, so that when a need arises, we can start to plug it in. Anyway, I don't need to go through the entire list of all the things that we're looking into. Obviously, it's kind of a long list, but suffice it to say, we've done a lot of research on some of these, and we're still doing research on a few others, which we think are important to have in place. Again, we might never use them, but it's nice to know what the rules are in case a need arises. Now we've got a longer list of tools available to us so that we can solve different kinds of problems as they come up. The other side of the revenue team is being aware of what our needs are. It's all well and good to say we've got these tools that provide funding. What are the needs that we have out there? For example, we had this election 2 weeks ago. Voters supported 4 of our recommendations, but they did not support the other 4. That's 4 problems that we have still to solve. Is there an opportunity here for finding an alternative source of funding for those other 4? I can't tell you that we do. We can certainly try to connect some of these dots, connect some of these possible fundings to these deficits, which we still need a new lift at Hogan on that. That need hasn't gone away. What can we do there? I don't know, but having these tools available is helpful to at least have more options that we can consider. now that we've got this situation at our hands. So we are in the midst of continuing this process. We had 2 years to get this all done. We are 18 months in. We are making some significant progress. We're not quite done yet. But we're probably about 2/3 of the way through the list of the things we wanted to research. And we are now to that position where we can really start trying to make sure that we understand these tools well enough to say, if we wanted to pursue one of these, which we are not so familiar with, which we're not so experienced with, maybe we can start plugging them in. So that is, oh, shoot, sorry. So we wanted to make sure that we had a chance to come and report to the council to let you guys know that we are making progress on this goal, and also to answer any questions, especially since we don't want to just be in a situation where we tell you, oh, we're done, we did this, check it out, because maybe you guys have additional direction for us. Maybe there's additional things that you want us to do, or make sure we're not overlooking as we complete this task. So we certainly wanted to have a chance to talk to you guys about it. We haven't spoken too much about this goal previously.
Any questions for Pete?
Thank you for all your guys' work on this. I know it's a lot. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
It's no easy task, and we're a bunch of laymen here to understanding fully everything, but we appreciate it. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. Do you have anything to add, Mr. City Manager or acting?
No, I would just commend them. Having been here for a little over a year, I've watched them work incredibly hard and dig through a lot of resources and look at all kinds of different options to try and figure out how we can stretch, the available funds and the opportunities to go as far as we can to meet the needs of the community. So I just applaud that group for their incredibly hard work.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we definitely do thank you and staff and everybody else has been involved in it. Thank you very much. The budget calendar.
Yeah, so.
It's a real minute.
Yeah. Fortunately or unfortunately, depending where you sit, it's that time of year to start thinking about the budget coming forward. And, statute has stipulations and requirements for the city to pass a budget. And as part of that, Ms. Johnson has prepared a budget calendar. And so I would ask her to share with the council the proposed budget calendar for the upcoming calendar year. Fiscal year, I should say. I apologize.
Good evening, Mayor, councilors. I believe it's already time to start talking about budget. That's just crazy. But if you'll notice in our budget calendar, we are starting on our capital budgeting process. It does start about mid-November, and Pete runs a couple of classes for the different staff here at the city to help them to understand how to put their capital items into the Munis software that we can look at it for the budget. So within the budget calendar, you'll notice that we have a lot of colors this year. In the past, we've had a black, which is typically staff items, and we've had red, which is items which council will need to be a part of. So if you see those items and there's a date on it, please put those on your calendar because we will be talking to you about certain things at that time. In addition, we also have some blue items. So the blue items are related to priority-based budgeting. So per council's direction within the last month, we have started working toward a priority-based budgeting program list that we can present to both Carter and to council to see if what we are budgeting is actually meeting what the council wants as a priority. This isn't just council's priorities, this is community priorities, this is staff priorities, this is everything coming together to help us determine if our budget is funding the priorities that are where we want to go. So with that, I'm open to any questions, but that's all I got.
I just kind of wish I was going to be here to see how the priorities shake out and how the process goes. So I think it will be very interesting setting the budget to try to match the priorities of the citizens and council. So.
Thank you, I agree.
Yeah, very good.
Okay.
I may have run again if I'd have known this.
You can still come and visit, right?
There you go.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
Watch on YouTube.
I'll watch it on YouTube, yeah.
Meeting started at 5.
So, leadership selection resolution. Did we all look at and review the resolution? So I think, did you want to go ahead and go over that very quickly, or?
Yeah, Mayor, councilors, I didn't want to belabor going through the entire process because I know council worked very hard on this, but there are just a couple things, just a couple reminders. Number one, the group that's involved in the straw poll is going to be the proposed council that's going to be sitting at the January 7th meeting. So the outgoing council members do not participate in this straw poll. So that's the first thing I wanted to mention. The other thing I wanted to mention to the councilors that are going to be present next year, along with the prospective councilors that are here tonight, is that nominations for mayor and vice mayor need to be into the city clerk, Amanda. Sorry, lost track, we're back there, into Amanda by November 29th, the Friday after Thanksgiving, which actually we're closed on that day. So by November 27th, Wednesday, November 27th. So any nominations that occur need to be in by November 27th for the mayor and vice mayor. And so I think you could call and make those, you could drop them off, whatever you wanted to do to make sure if you get those to Amanda, if you call the city manager's office or drop a note. And then again, at the meeting in December, then we'll have the straw poll, and it's spelled out in there about speeches from prospective people that have accepted nominations, and then go into executive session and do the ranked choice voting, and then hopefully come out of there with a proposed mayor and vice mayor. And then of course that is solidified or formalized at the first official meeting in the new calendar year when the mayor and vice mayor are formally voted in. So just wanted a reminder of that, refresher, and make sure, you know, if there's any questions or concerns, that those are resolved, and make sure we're very clear to everybody that's participating in that.
So this straw poll, be done on December 17th.
3rd.
Next,
December 3rd.
yeah, the next week.
And we have a say on that straw poll thing.
Yes,
Yes.
because you will be the people electing the new mayor and vice mayor. But basically, the way that meeting will go is we will start the meeting. I believe this is correct. We'll start the meeting. We'll go over the approval of the minutes, the bills and claims, and then the swearing in of the new council members. And then at that time of Mayor Pro Tem, we'll go ahead and call for the election or the nominations and the election of the mayor and vice mayor. And then it's your meeting and it's your bailiwick to run along with.
Yeah, and so the distinguishing points behind that, Pat, is that there's a straw poll, which is non-binding. So you guys will be a part of the straw poll, even though you're not officially sworn in yet. So then after that, then we go to the real meeting in January, the official meeting where you are sworn in, then we do an official vote that you guys will also be a part of. So the reason behind the straw poll is there's a lot of behind the scenes that has to happen with signatures and getting the new mayor and vice mayor prepped for it. So that's why they have the straw poll in anticipation of that. So the straw poll is non-binding, but then we do that in the official meeting. Does that make sense?
And some of those things, because we do have some time right now, but some of those things that need to be taken care of is the new mayor will have to select probably 2 positions for the Joint Powers Water Board. They will have to be approved that evening of January 3rd, because the next meeting of the water board is before your next business meeting. So to have those people there, you have to have that. So those have to be done. Trying to think of and basically because I won't be there either, Jill, who does the finances for the water board, I'm the treasurer of the water board. So we have to figure out who's going to be the new treasurer of the water board, which we'll probably do in December so that she can get the paperwork done to get me off of the water. These are the types of things that have to go on that we need to know who the mayor and vice mayor are going to be. So those are just two examples that I can give you very quickly of what has to go on.
So Mary, you referred to January 3rd. Was it?
I'm sorry, I said 3rd, it's the 7th. Yes, I'm sorry. I'm thinking December 3rd is the meeting for the straw poll. January the 7th is the meeting, the council meeting to swear you folks in. I'm trying to move it up. I want out of here. You know? But no, but those are some very pointed examples of why we have the straw poll that Ray was talking about, is some of the behind the scenes actions that have to go on.
Some of those appointments for jumpers in the, say, we're interested, how does that?
Anytime.
Anytime.
I mean, what I would say, Pat, if you want to get a hold of that, I would contact the city manager's office or Steve and just say, hey, can I get a list of some of the boards and liaison, and then just start looking at it. And so when the new mayor is selected, possibly when the mayor is selected through the straw poll, then you can start having that conversation to say, hey, look, because everybody will do that and say, I'm kind of interested in this one, or I'm kind of done being on this board. And then we have to kind of work around that.
But yeah, Jackie has a copy of
Yep.
that in the city manager's office. And everybody will be assigned a couple or 3 of them. Some of them you will be liaisons, others you will be voting members of. So you are very much representing the council. So, yeah. And some of those, you need to be very involved with the city manager and the city budget. And that one in particular is the Hall of Justice Detention Center Joint Powers Board, because that directly affects the city budget.
She
Then we can get Jackie to send the.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah. Have a way to email her, or I will make sure that I relay that to Jackie.
We just have her send it out to everyone.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
I mean, we all
That's a
have
good
to
point.
take
Got
that,
some
don't we?
shuffle.
Yeah, probably
Shuffling
send it to
down.
everybody. Good point. Yeah, if we're looking at switching around, that would be a good point. Absolutely. Any other questions from the? No, I'm.
Emphasis on peanut
I just
gallery.
paused. The council members elect, how's that sound?
no appreciate what. That's a good question. Get it clear. So then, what's the best way any of us to contact?
Probably via email or telephone. And if you don't have our numbers or anything, we're all on the city website. And if there's even anything that, you're free to give me a call if you want as well.
We established 5 PM as our meet time tonight.
Do
Glad to
what?
see I was not the
It
only
said
one.
last week, and then it was on your agenda, and it's in your calendar.
We did that
They
at
said
the
it to
last
us last
meeting.
week.
I do not recall that.
Great.
Michael brought
I mean,
cookies,
it's a
but
little
we ate them
embarrassing
all.
that the newly elected are all here and
They got the memo.
Yeah, but no, it was decided at the last council meeting. At our work session. And then, yes.
I was
it
here, but.
It was even in bold on the grid, and I think it was even mentioned in the memo that was sent out with the agenda.
And then you announced to make sure to be here.
Well.
Three strikes.
I needed a badge, so they told me
5
yesterday.
different
I
ways.
was like,
I'm gonna fact check.
But meanwhile,
It
back at the
does-
ranch.
really
Does
was gonna
anybody
say.
have anything else about the election process? Anything for the agenda review? Mr. Acting City Manager.
Mr. Mayor, the only thing that I wanted to mention, and I don't know if anybody's here that would comment, but that we are canceling the public hearing on massage therapy. So just wanted to make that aware to everybody, because I know I'd heard from some council people earlier that there'd been a lot of questions asked about that. And again, that public hearing had been canceled. There's no proposed resolution to be considered at this point.
We'll mention that at the beginning of the next meeting in case there's folks who want to save their comment until a later meeting. But I think there are a number of folks planning to come tonight, so we might mention that at the beginning of the regular meeting in case they want to save their comments for a different day.
I will make that comment at the beginning of the at the beginning of the public comment period that we are canceling that public hearing. So depending on whatever they want to do, and that we are still reviewing. So any comments that they would like to make, send to council comments, and staff can go ahead and take a look at those and try to incorporate that stuff.
And if they want to just make comment too during the
Sure,
public
yeah.
comment, it's
We don't have any language to
to go off
review
of.
specifically. so.
Yeah, exactly. So, very good. Anybody here got anything about the agenda? Anything more?
Lisa, your thing is still not on here.
Say again?
Yeah, it is. It's on the 17th of December.
The truancy thing?
Yeah. Okay.
So it's going straight to a council meeting, not a work session?
Oh, pre-meeting. Okay, never mind. I was like, it's not on the work sessions. I looked. It's supposed to be truancy
So do we have to come early for that
and
pre-meeting?
loitering. in progress.
Are we coming early for that
Because this
pre-meeting?
doesn't say loitering.
I've got it in my notes, so.
Okay.
As of right now, it's just those two, items. I don't believe so. No, this one was early because of, we thought it was going to be a little longer for the, for several of the items that we got through quite a bit quicker. So
But no one's here.
Are we
No
gonna
one's
go
answering
now?
any questions.
I wasn't going to say that.
Now we have some time.
We wanna go
Jill,
over 'em
can I
again?
ask you a question with the budget and things of that nature, and then what Pete had said? So if, for the finance, and I know that the state, a couple of years ago, we voted to allow us for our investment accounts to be invested into something. And so if the state decides that we could do that, then could we take any of the income that the city makes and then utilize that towards the chairlift at Hogadon or some other project?
Mayor, Counselor, let me make sure I understand your question. So you're talking about the Amendment A to get us the ability to invest in equities.
Right.
So, and what you're asking me is the income that we would receive from the equity investments, can we
Interest.
use them?
Interest income.
Okay, can we use that for Hogadon or whatever? So first of all, I need to clarify on Amendment A, yes, it did pass by the voters, but part of the language within the amendment was that the legislature had to come up with a way to do that. So the legislature last session actually did pass a option for the state treasurer to put together a YOSTAR 3, which would be equity investments. That has not been completed yet, so they are still working on that. We did have several interim sessions to talk to the legislature. and they tabled the proposed bills kind of at the end of last month. So we do not have anything going into this legislative session that will move that forward. So right now we are waiting on direction from the state treasurer and from the legislature to allow us to go forward. So we are not able to do that at this time. If and when, which I'm not going to say that it will never happen because I'm hopeful that it will. When it does happen, I believe that we can put that investment income anywhere we would like.
Thank you. That answered.
Any other questions or comments? We will see you all next door, across the hallway, I should say, in
6:30?
about 20 minutes. At what time did you say?
At 6:30?
No.